Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Wahoos Weekly on Blab TV. I'm Blue Wahoos broadcaster Erik Bremer. He's Charlie Hobert, my broadcast partner. Every week, we'll take you through the Pensacola Blue Wahoos and the latest happenings on and off the field. This week, the Blue Wahoos are on the road in Birmingham, and it's been a special week, Charlie, because the Blue Wahoos will have played 5 games at Regions Field, but Wednesday afternoon, playing at the oldest ballpark in America, Rickwood Field. It's called the Rickwood game. And it's a very cool thing that for the first time the Blue Wahoos have been able to be a part of. It's something that I know we've been looking forward to for a long time.
It's so special, Erik. It's such a great thing that MLB decided to make this a regular part of things. A couple years ago, they reopened it up for the Giants-Cardinals game, and then the Pensacola Blue Wahoos getting to be a part of it this year. It was so special. There's so much history in a ballpark like that. It opened, I believe, in 1910, which, to my knowledge, is a really long time ago. And it's hosted some of the greatest baseball players to ever play the game. Willie Mays, Satchel Paige. Mays playing when he was only 17 years old. So getting to play in a field like that with all that history, not just baseball history, but American history, is really something special and a great opportunity for these kids.
Rickwood Field was the home stadium of the Birmingham Barons and the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro Southern League for many decades. And as the Birmingham Barons moved to the Hoover Met in the mid-'80s, Rickwood Field fell into a state of disrepair, but starting in the mid-'90s, the Barons once a year would go back to their old home and play a turn-back-the-clock game. It became an annual tradition through 2019. Then MLB said, you know what, this stadium just is not up to standards, so you can't do it anymore. But then a couple years after that, they said, you know what, we're going to pour the money into making this historic stadium back to the way it should be. And the Rickwood game, as it's now called, has become a new, renewed tradition every year for the Birmingham Barons. The Pensacola Blue Wahoos played that game as the Pensacola Seagulls, which were a Negro League feeder team. It's a complicated history, Charlie, but one that the Blue Wahoos choose to really embrace and take pride in, because the Pensacola Seagulls, though it was long before either of us were born, really brought a lot of joy to a lot of people.
Absolutely, man, and it's good to hold on to that history with the good and the bad. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people would like to forget, but it's important that we hold on to those things and we try to learn from them. I know we're in a different place in our time, but it's good to remember every part of what makes who we are as a baseball club, as people, and it's really special that we got to, I should say, recreate that in a sense, with a healthier mindset, I'll say.
Yeah, we are taping this before the game. By the time you watch it, this game will have passed, and I know I've got some plans to maybe do it up sartorially and wear a unique turn-back-the-clock outfit, thinking maybe suspenders, maybe a little derby hat or something like that. What do you have planned to really lean into the turn-back-the-clock aspect of the Rickwood game?
Well, for now it's to be determined. I don't have the oldest garb in the world. I do have one flat cap that I'm sure will make an appearance, and I'll see if I can spruce up my nicer wardrobe in a sense to make it a little more period appropriate for the game that we're going to be playing. Because if the players can make their garb period appropriate, surely the broadcasters can do the same.
Yeah, and it's going to be theater of the mind because, to our knowledge, there's not going to be a video broadcast of this game. So we are going to be doing the radio broadcast, and that is going to be the only option for Blue Wahoos fans, unless they choose to make that drive up to Birmingham themselves. You will be listening to our radio broadcast, and we will be painting the picture for you, maybe wearing a fedora with a little index card on the side in the band that says press. Let's talk a little bit about the Birmingham Barons. Blue Wahoos haven't faced them yet this year, but they are the 2-time defending champions, and the Chicago White Sox, to their credit, though they have struggled at the big league level the last couple years, they've really stocked up the farm system, and the Blue Wahoos have seen that firsthand these last couple years. A lot of talent once again on this Birmingham roster.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I mean, White Sox maybe, like you said, not doing it at the big league level, but you got to be doing it somewhere, and for them it's in Double-A. They've got a lot of great talent. For a Double-A team to win back-to-back championships is really something. That shows organizational depth. There's so much flux with these rosters, and for them to be able to bring in talent constantly is something special that Birmingham has done so well throughout its entire tenure in this league. And so I think it's going to be a good test for Pensacola. It's going to be their biggest test thus far. I know there's the lookouts that series had just passed, but with a team like Birmingham and with the success they've had historically, it's always a little extra oomph behind these games.
Well, Birmingham Barons have a history that dates back more than a century. A lot of that was spent at Rickwood Field. But if you are maybe the most casual of minor league baseball fans, if you know the Birmingham Barons for one thing, it is that Michael Jordan played a season for them back in 1994. When you walk into Regions Field, they've got murals of Reggie Jackson and all these other famous players who played in Birmingham, but the largest mural is reserved for a guy who batted about .210 in Double-A. Before you got to the Southern League, surely you knew the story of Michael Jordan. From an outsider's perspective, what does that mean for the world of minor league baseball to have such a unique aspect of their history in Birmingham?
I mean, it's just kind of cool. It's awesome. We have the players like Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, and those are kind of unicorns in a sense. They were able to play two sports pretty darn well. But Bo Jackson, career cut short. Deion Sanders wasn't the greatest baseball player you'll ever meet. Michael Jordan is widely considered the single greatest basketball player to ever set foot on a basketball court. And so for him to then go play professional baseball is really something. And yeah, as an organization, you're going to want to hold on to that. So I think it's really cool to kind of celebrate that. I don't know if the mural should be any bigger than Willie Mays or Reggie Jackson's per se. But I do think it's something that you do want to highlight. And, if it's going to sell some Jordan jerseys, let's sell some Jordan jerseys.
Yeah, Willie Mays does have a statue out front. So I think that's probably the highest honor reserved at Regions Field in Birmingham. But you are very right. Those number 45 Michael Jordan jerseys are still probably the top seller in the Birmingham Barons team store. Let's talk a little bit about the Blue Wahoos now. A slow start. They've worked their way out from that, but especially facing a team that has a lot of speed, a lot of dynamic talent on their roster like the Birmingham Barons. Blue Wahoos are going to have to lean on their starting pitching, and we've seen just piece by piece that starting pitching start to come together. Carson Milbrandt, the opening day starter, has given his team a pretty good chance every time out, but now we're seeing him pitch deeper into ball games, and that is something that's really encouraging to see, because if he wants to go where we all think he's going to go, they're going to rely on him to go that third time through the order.
Yeah, Carson's somebody who's got a lot of upside, and I think his floor is a lot higher than a lot of other people's floor. He's got some of the best stuff I've seen, at least out of a minor league ball player. It's just about command with him and making sure his pitches go where he wants them, and not just being wild, not just with the walks, but when he misses low in the zone, he gets hit real hard. He throws real hard. He's very susceptible to loud contact and the home run ball. We saw that a little bit in the AFL. We've seen that a little bit in his first couple of starts this year. But yes, like you said, that length is starting to come. Nelson Prada, a little more comfortable running him out there. You want to protect his elbow. We know he's had some troubles with that right arm. So, yes, play it cautious. And I know the Miami Marlins are going to be playing it cautious. But Carson, he's got his ceiling, man. I'm not sure we can even see it from where we're standing. So I'm super excited to see him eventually pitch to the 7th, maybe the 8th. We'll see where he goes.
One of the most memorable matchups for the Blue Wahoos in 2025 was in Birmingham. It was a day game, and it pitted Robbie Snelling against Noah Schultz, two strong left-handed pitching prospects. Now, less than a year later, Noah Schultz is in the big leagues for the White Sox, and Robbie Snelling should be knocking on the door for his big league call-up. Who knows what kind of matchups we'll be seeing this year that we'll look at down the line. Blue Wahoos have had a strong tradition of supporting scouts here coming to Pensacola, and we've got a special scout, Mike Russell, a Hall of Fame scout, joining us as our guest. You've never met Mike, but I have, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Just in general terms, though, you've gotten to meet a lot of scouts coming through here. How much value is it as a broadcaster to have those resources, people that you can talk to and give professional opinions on these players?
I mean, there's no more baseball people than scouts. They live for this. This is their thing, you know? So it's so cool to get to sit down with somebody who has to be able to see everything that you can't. And so the way they see the game is super unique, super special, and it's really good chatter, and it's really good to get their insight on what makes some of our Blue Wahoos players so special.
Professional Scout Hall of Famer Mike Russell is our guest, coming up next on Wahoos Weekly.
At A1 Automotive, we do it all kinds of repairs for all kinds of vehicles. We do AC repairs, we do suspensions, we do pre-purchase inspections. We'll diagnose your problem and get it fixed. Free brake inspection. We can provide financing for any work we do. Veteran-owned, military, and first responders discounts. A1 Automotive, 403 Beverly Parkway, Pensacola.
Nestled in the heart of Pensacola, Dorothy's is a one-of-a-kind, community-driven cocktail bar by Oasis, Florida, created to sustain vital HIV and STI care across the Florida Panhandle. Inspired by the Wizard of Oz, rooted in inclusion and dripping with character, Dorothy's is a welcoming space with award-winning Oz-inspired cocktails, food by Steel Pony Diner, and an unmatched atmosphere. Join us 7 days a week in downtown Pensacola, located directly across from Maritime Park and the Blue Wahoos Stadium.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wahoos Weekly. I'm Blue Wahoos broadcaster Erik Bremer, and our guest this week is a professional scout Hall of Famer and a fixture here at Blue Wahoos Stadium, Mike Russell. Mike, great to see you again. How you doing?
Good seeing you, E.
Well, you were here pretty much on a daily basis during your career. You're now in the second year of retirement. How is retirement treating you?
Yeah, good. You know, I had a 38-year run and catching up on doing some things that you miss when you travel as much as people in professional baseball, as you know, from being part of it as well in your position. And spending time with my dogs and just kicking back.
Nothing wrong with that. We'll start at the very beginning, because if you are going to be a professional baseball scout, you need to love the game of baseball. What gave you that initial hit of baseball that told you, you know what, I want to do this for my entire life?
Well, you know, from a young age, I always loved baseball. Unfortunately, as the older I got, the worse I played. So when I went to Chipola Junior College, after 2 years, then I went to Troy and was there. And so Coach Chase Riddle gave me my first opportunity as a student assistant. We had a couple, I went up there to play, but I wasn't good enough to play on a regular basis, and he needed somebody to help him, and he knew that I wanted to coach. So one day I was taking ground balls, next day I was hitting ground balls, and that's how it all started.
Okay, so do you go from player to coach? At some point you went from coach to scout. What did that transition look like?
Yeah, I was our first full-time assistant at Troy. They hired me after the 1985 season. Then we won the national championship in '86, which we're being honored up in Troy this Saturday. That team, 40-year anniversary of the national championship. And then in '87 we won again. And then Ken Squeaky Parker, God rest his soul, gave me my initial opportunity to start with the San Francisco Giants, and I left Troy, and that's where it all started professionally.
Which different MLB clubs did you scout for in your long career?
I started with the Giants, then I went to the Toronto Blue Jays, and then from Toronto I went to the Marlins with Dave Dombrowski. And from the Marlins, I went to the Tigers with Dave Dombrowski, and I stayed there for 23 of the next 26 years. I had a 3-year in the middle there where I went and worked with Dave Stewart and Tony La Russa at Arizona.
You had a coaching career working with amateur players. Most of your professional career was on the pro scouting side, but for those who don't know, there is a difference between an amateur scout and a pro scout as you evaluate different players. So in layman's terms, what is the difference between someone who's scouting on the amateur side and someone who's scouting on the pro side?
Well, the amateur side, you're betting on the come way down the line. And in the pro side, it's more of what can they do now. Once you get to AA, AAA, and of course the big leagues, there's still, you're betting on the come or scouting for future at the rookie leagues and the low A. But the main difference is that you're dealing with normally older players, physically stronger, as opposed to the amateur side, which they've got high school and college in the amateur side. So that's the main difference.
One favorite pastime of baseball fans, to say nothing of scouts, is just remembering old names from back in the day and just throwing that out and remembering what that player meant to you. It's something that scouts especially love to do because you get to see so many players come and go throughout the years. Are there any success stories that you're especially proud of? Someone that you were able to identify early, see something that no one else saw?
Well, the first one comes to mind because I scouted in Latin America with the Blue Jays. That was my first. That was the start. Pat Gillick and Bob Engel. They asked me to go to Venezuela, and I said, sure. Never been. Didn't even know how to get there at that point. But one day we were working out kids, and it was on a Friday, and in Barquisimeto, Venezuela, and the Little League coach come up and wanted to show us one of his players. And we were already finished up. And so Emilio Carrasquel, who was our scout in that area at that time, that part of central Venezuela, said, well, we'll do it tomorrow. And I said, no, let's go ahead and do it today because I might fly out tomorrow, And we were sort of caught off guard because we wasn't prepared for this. So we say, okay, we'll bring him on out. And he brought this little kid out. He's like 14 years old. And I'm like, man, I don't know. But out of respect to the coach, I said, yeah, put him in shortstop. I said, what does he play? He says, shortstop. I said, okay. Put him out there. We fungoed him some balls. He looked really good. So, okay. And he threw good. We ran him. He ran good. And he was a switch hitter. And so we ended up with an agreement with him for $40,000. But at that point, he really wasn't eligible to sign. So we signed him to what we call a parallel league contract. And then when he became old, the proper age, then we transferred him to the Blue Jays. And Emilio, did a really good job keeping up. But Cesar Asturias, he was a longtime major league player, two-time Gold Glove winner.
Angels, among others, right?
Yeah, and the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep.
Great baseball mind. Has an academy now in Venezuela. But the one thing that I remember vividly about that experience was that we went over to his house. And it was just one room, mud floor, but hard pan, clay, and they had 12 family members in there. And it was really hot. And, I had a chance to speak to the mother through Emilio, and so that's really how the relationship began. And for me, that was when I started becoming a much better scout, by seeing how these kids down there always overcame the obstacles. I mean, you got 12 people in a hut and stifling heat, and they're eating. They don't know where their next meal's coming from, but they find a way, and that's why I think that a lot of the Latin players, they find a way to the big leagues somehow, some way. We see it all the time coming through here. You say, well, I never heard of this guy. Well, you will. So, but that's the main one. I was fortunate enough to sign 7 or 8 other guys. Billy Koch was a first-round pick, with the Blue Jays, and had several with the Giants my first year and a half there. Scooter Tucker, Kevin Rogers, Pat Rapp. All lower draft guys. Brian Smith, I got him in like the 40-something round out of Wilmington, North Carolina, when I was with the Blue Jays. So, you got to be really lucky, but a lot of times you make your own luck through hard work and just being a people person. And which, I always thought that, that was a good skill to have.
One of the things that I admired about you as I got to know you these last couple of years in Pensacola, a lot of scouts come here. They enjoy coming here. But you would often be the first scout here in the afternoon because you wanted to be up here in the press box and watch the early work. What sorts of things can you learn from the practice that other scouts might not be able to pick up on who only show up for the game?
Well, I always enjoyed being at the ballpark. Even though I live here, I still operated just like if I was in Knoxville or Montgomery, at the hotel. And, those hotel rooms, they get real small the longer the season goes. So one of the reasons I went is just to get out and stir crazy. But the other thing is I wanted to see, obviously who was out early. I mean, all these clubs do a great job. But the other thing, too, is guys like yourself and all the radio and press people around, I spent more time investigating a kid's makeup that I was interested in through sources like yourself and some of your, people that travel with a team. And, makeup is such a huge thing. It's the hardest thing to get an honest read on. And so I always prided myself on doing going extra mile, and I enjoyed talking baseball to whoever's around.
Well, makeup is also something that's very difficult to pick up on video, and that's where a lot of the pro scouting is going, where they don't even send scouts to physically watch these games anymore. They just get the metrics and the video, and they do it remotely. The smart teams, it seems, are still discovering anew that there is value in having pro scouting and having them physically in the stadium. What have you seen in terms of the way that this industry has changed, even since you retired a couple years ago?
Yeah, it's become such a analytical type industry in terms of everything's got a number on it. We used to say this guy's got a plus arm. Well, they don't now. The modern lingo, if you would, they talk in numbers. They're saying the same thing. We said plus arm, they're saying 65 or 70, however you want to say it. There's so many good things that you can learn from the film study and, there's so many analytical formulas for so many things, but not everything is important. So if you're an expert on some of the least important stuff, you can get burnt. And I think that it's great to have all these numbers and how you evaluate, but a scout's gut instinct, the really great scouts. Sometimes I like the player. And I remember that Dave Dombrowski asked me, how can you like him? I said, I really don't know, but I do. He said, that's not a good answer. And I said, that's a good answer for me. And, sometimes you just can't explain it. And you hope that if they make a move, that nowadays that would never occur probably because they would have analysts and, they send their reports in now. And the guys that are working, and they got 10 other people that are going to read it and tear it apart and trying to get to the right answer. I'm not saying it's a bad way to do things. It's just a different way. Times have changed, and you got to change with the times, or they're going to change you.
Before we go, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is you have taken leadership role in leading some of our youth clinics, including the Fred Waters Baseball Camp, which is held the first Saturday in June.
Right.
Free for members of the community, hoping that we can spark that love of baseball in the next generation. Why is that so important to you?
Oh, well, number one, Fred Waters was just a unbelievable person. If you didn't like Fred Waters, there was something wrong with you. And I honestly can say that maybe Fred Waters and Kevin Sauché are really the only two people that I know that I don't think I've ever heard a bad word said about either one of them. And Fred was very close to Kevin and helped Kevin when Kevin was coming up, and he become a good man. And, that's what this clinic's about. It's not, in an hour and a half session, you're not going to turn, somebody into Hank Aaron or Willie Mays
Right.
or whoever. But we hope that they'll see some adults out here that's having fun, that it'll spark an interest for them to continue to keep playing. Because that's the big thing now is the participation rate, especially for the minority kids that all over the country, we're trying to generate more interest. In Pensacola, we have a great interest in baseball here. We have a long history of here, but between Quint Studer, he's been totally behind this. When we had the original Fred Waters clinic, Warren Culberson, Astro Lincoln Mercury, he was a big supporter. At that point, anything we needed, vehicles for the scouts that we would fly in and stuff. And Warren's sons, they played baseball at Tate and West Florida, and so there's a lot of history here of really good people, and Quint Studer fits that to a T. If we would have had Quint Studer back then, there's no telling what we would have done, because we did a lot of really good things, raised a lot of money that we put back into the community.
Well, whether you're able to acknowledge it or not, Mike Russell is one of those really good people who's meant a lot to the community that loves baseball so much here in Pensacola. The Hall of Fame scout, Mike Russell, really good to see you back here at Blue Wahoo Stadium.
Okay, Eric, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for watching this episode of Wahoos Weekly.